Yep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn today here for the Institute for Transformational Leadership at the School of Continuing Studies at Georgetown University. I am joined by Sharon Newport and Marcia Feola from faculty members specifically for the Executive Certificate in Organizational Development, Consulting, and Change Leadership. This is a certificate program that we do here through the Institute for Transformational Leadership at Georgetown University. So what is the point of today? Today is we're going to share some knowledge from our esteemed faculty members here, and hopefully you learned something from it. So a quick introduction here. I have my first one pulled up is Marcia. I'm going to introduce you she is a principal in Powerful Work, focuses on creating a vibrant consulting firm dedicated to bringing leading-edge leadership and management tools to business and government. Over 30 years of experience in the management field. Marcia has successfully helped corporations, university, government agencies, and small business to increase productivity, improve teamwork, enhance processes, and effectively manage change. And then Sharon, here we have Sharon Newport, our other faculty member leading this. She is an experienced organizational consultant, international facilitator and speaker, and award-winning executive. She is an organizational development consultant who partners with leaders to advance their organization's goals using neuroscience, mindfulness, leadership embodiment, and coaching, along with lenses for equity and inclusion. So what she does is helps leaders actualize their most resourced, empowered, and authentic selves. So without further ado, I would love to turn this over to you two now, and we will start our actual presentation here. So thank you for being here with us today, and thank you everyone who is attending as well.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Marcia, as Jonathan has already pointed out. I'm delighted to see we're actually quite impressed with the turnout for today. It speaks a lot. And we're delighted, actually, that so many people, and I just want to say as way of introduction, is that this topic is near and dear to our hearts. And I think I don't know if it's coincidental, the universe conspired for us to be here today, but I think it's really important that we are here today, though, as I'm probably sure everybody's aware. A lot of I think sad and tragic news recently. There is so much strife in the world. And, I think Sharon's going to speak to this in just a moment, but we feel like the work we're trying to do and the conversation we're going to start today with you about presence is really, we see presence as a tool, but as a way of getting people to come back to themselves and to reconnect to themselves, to the earth, to each other. And we're hoping, it will contribute to us finding ways to be better citizens of this world. And so I welcome you into this conversation, and I'm delighted to be here. Sharon, I'm turn to you.
Yeah, of similar voice. So my name's Sharon Newport. I'm so glad to be with you today. I'm really glad to see not only your faces or icons that are on the screen, but the interest in this topic. We really believe this topic is an important conversation that we'd like to have with you today. This is a dialogue. Welcomed through a chat format, but a dialogue nonetheless. And I'd love to just share a few key tenets about how we perceive presence, but also its importance. And I think it's also our way of introducing ourselves and our values and how we see this work. So let me go ahead and bring something up onto the screen as we get started. So welcome to Presence, critical key to your effectiveness as a change leader. We believe presence is a tool for being with each other more effectively, for building community, for creating effective leadership, and creating change and transformation in our environment and in our world. So as we think about presence today, as we have these conversations today, we recognize that sometimes folks just want to lead a good meeting, and that's really important too. But we also recognize change and transformation can happen in those meetings. And we want to be able to support you to be with what is and support your goals to evolve. The other thing that I'd like to kind of drop in here is that presence is not a magical skill that only some people can have. We all have presence. We all have presence, and it just might not be the presence that we want in any given moment. And we need a little skill or support on how to bring to a quality or an impact to a situation in order to be more effective. And so what you'll hear from us today are ways in which we can unpack and see the unseen and have more choice about creating the goals that we prefer.
So I'd like just to invite you for a moment to just think about a time when you either witnessed or personally experienced being in a room that was positively shifted by someone's presence. So see if you can call up a time, and it could be a party you were at, it might be work, it can be in any environment. And what did you notice about that experience?
And you're welcome to throw some of that into chat if you'd
Yeah, I
like.
was gonna open the chat.
We'll give that a minute. And I think, yeah, relatedness. Oh, Lauren, indeed. Mm-hmm.
Feeling seen and recognized.
Mm.
Positivity, felt seen.
Mm-hmm.
Calm, inviting climate to participate. Very nice.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Some instances of me feeling more safe. Optimism. Changing the weather. I like that. I shifted the vibe. Yes. How the atmosphere seemed to make 180 super quickly. Yeah. These are beautiful.
These are beautiful.
I can think of
Overcoming
the
negative.
old space and the tension within the space. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
These are great. You've got the nut here, which is it's not as much about doing, right, as it is about being.
That's
So
right.
we have a few pictures to show you. We'll do them slowly. And what the invitation is to just look at the picture and notice what it evokes in you. And how do you know what it invoked in you?
All right. So feel free to come into chat about what these images evoke. You might have one or two that really stuck with you a certain kind of way. And for those that are continuing to ponder on that question, bravery,
Hope,
peace, love, resilience, joy, passion, purpose, freedom, admiration. Okay. And so how do you know that it evoked something in you? What's your cue that made you know these are feelings that are coming forward or qualities that you're experiencing somatically? Yeah. For those who are unfamiliar with the term soma or somatics, it is referencing the body.
Words come to mind. With a nod or a smile. But also distant, not connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I noticed too that with each picture there was a slight shift in my body.
Oh gosh, yes, like a flutter in my heart almost. That would go from like a warmth to a jump to a skip a beat to a sweaty palm. Because the faces are
sensation and memory.
Yes,
Goosebumps. Great.
Yeah.
So here's my lovely picture. I just want to talk about, so we're going to be talking about presence, but this is sort of an intro to it, which is here's a person on Earth, right? And they're connected to Earth, their feet are on the ground, they're in this environment or space. And here's what humans do. And we all know this, I think. Go to the next slide. What we do most of the time is we're either thinking about something in the past, right? We could be ruminating, we could be, worrying about something that happened. Or we're in the future, which we're usually imagining because it hasn't happened yet. We're creating some scenario or story about what we think is going to happen. And then there's a third, which is running commentary. And that's stuff like, oh, look, both those ladies are wearing blue. Or I'm hungry, I forgot to eat lunch, right? Or I don't like the slides. Whatever we're running commentary all the time. But you'll notice what happens is we spend more time in our heads, right? And we lose our connection to our body and to the earth. And really, as Sharon talked about, building community and other people, we kind of lose our connection once we spend that much time. If we're so much in our thoughts, we've lost all of the information and all of the experience that comes from being connected to our bodies. So our hope is that our work today, as we start to talk about more in depth about presence, is that we really come to how do we stay back? How do we bring ourselves back, right? So that we are connected to ourselves in the form of our bodies, right? And to our inner experience too, and to others and to the earth. So that's our goal here, is that we are to come back here and to be in connection. That, I hope that makes sense to people, that we spend, particularly in the Western culture, we're very biased towards thinking and cognitive abilities, but in truth, our bodies have a lot to say, and we don't pay enough attention to them. So I want to talk a bit about how some of this happens. When we are born, right? Unlike when a baby is born, I'm going to put my hands up here for a second. What we know is if you take a picture of a baby's hand and a picture of an adult hand, that hand looks, the baby's hand looks the same as an adult hand, but it's smaller. When we are born, though, with our brains are underdeveloped. So a baby's brain doesn't look like an adult brain. The brain in a human develops over probably the first 10 to 12 years. I mean, that's when its big growth spurt happens. And our brains, okay, are not just located in our head, but we have these neural pathways that are connected through our brainstem all the way through our body out to our fingers and toes. So it's like an information highway. There's information coming up and down all the time in our bodies. And those pathways, I'm sure you've heard the saying, what fires together wires together. And what happens to children is that the children start to shape, if you will, that's a word, or we start to build all those connections from our brain in our body through experiences with our parents, with our guardians, with our schools, our communities, our religious affiliations, probably social networking. Our social networking. All of those experiences are what starts to build a human's ultimate adult brain and pathways and patterns. And it's really important to know, right? I often like to tell people, you're kind of off the hook. You didn't create yourself. In some ways, you were shaped and built by the experiences of your early life. So then, which is part of the reason we are interested in helping people when they talk about presence, is about how to re-engage with their body. Sharon, want to talk a little bit about identity?
I do. And one kind of connecting point I'd like to make is that as adults, this is where we have more choice, right, than we did when we were young. And so when we think about presence, we do think about the opportunity to have choice. It is not a default process. While it might have been thought of that way, but we're here to say that we can consciously cultivate that. And so we'll start this with a little quote from Mos Def, a famous rapper that is one of the founders. "My presence speaks volumes before I say a word." And so when we think about where we've been shaped, one of the components of that are our identities. So these are just some of the identities we all have. This is part of our own intersectionality. This scaffolds the way in which we are shaped, but it also scaffolds the way the world interacts with us as well. It has forms of power, it has forms of dominance or historical marginalization, and it informs where we sit with ourselves and what it's like to be in the room with others. And so while just touching lightly on the premise that all of these things sitting differently within each of us are to be mindfully held when we're scaffolding how we sit in the world, how we stand in the world, how we hold a room, how we support others, and how we help those other groups of folks as change leaders want to and trust and engage in us because of our authenticity about how we sit with ourselves. And therefore they can trust how to be with me, how to be with us, how to be in our community, so that we are also embodying some of those same values and presence. There is a process and an attunement to that we'll talk more about. So we just want to recognize that identity is a key component to that work, and that we want to make these choices consciously. And they start with being aware with what's happening in our body around them.
So thank you. I want to invite you into a mindfulness moment, but it's a very purposeful, and it's along the same stream of thought we've been offering today, which is, how do we get back into our bodies? I don't know how many people I know who tell me all the time, I don't feel embodied in any way. I've lost touch with myself. So I want to invite us all into an experience, because I don't think in this country, at least, we have a lot of practice at languaging what's happening for ourselves in our body. So as a sort of a foundational piece, I'm going to walk you through a moment. There'll be 3 rounds of this, where I'm going to invite you to go inside and check for these 3 different experiences, and for you to start getting more familiar with, what is my body saying? What am I noticing? When we asked you before about what does this evoke and how do you know it, it's usually from a place of sensation. Someone said, smile, they noticed, oh, my face changed, right? That's a bodily response, right? So I want to deepen, or I want to offer this as an opportunity to start deepening your ability to language, to identify what's happening for you in your internal experience. So if you would, just make yourselves comfortable. You can put your feet on the floor if they're not, and recognize you're sitting on a chair, you're being held here by gravity. And if you would, just bring your attention internally, and we're going to do the first round, sort of a body scan. And what we're looking for in this first round is temperature. So if we start at the top of our heads and we just bring our awareness or our attention down through our forehead into our face, and what you're looking for is, where do I feel cold? Where do I feel warm? Where do I feel coolness? Perhaps a breeze? Where do I feel maybe sticky or sweaty, clammy? So take your attention down through your face, your back of your head, your neck, your shoulders. And I'm not encouraging you to do anything except notice. There's no need to change anything or alter it. It's just notice what you can notice, and notice where in your body you don't have access to that information. So again, we're looking at temperature. Where do I feel warmth, heat, coolness, right? Down through your chest, your arms, and your back. We often forget our backs. Down through your buttocks, your gut area, into your thighs, your knees, your shin, down into your feet. And you may have other words than the ones I've used. We just notice if you have some new language, that's great. And then we're going to do a second round. Same idea, from our heads down. We're just going to do a body scan. This time what we're looking for is contraction. We're looking for, where do we feel tightness? Where do we feel open and relaxed? So again, starting at the top of your head and moving slowly down, letting your attention go to, do I feel pinchy somewhere, or tight? And come through your face. We often lock our jaws, or some people do, right? So is there tension or tightness in your jaw, your back of your neck, down through your shoulders? And we do tend to, particularly with us sitting at computers all the time, we tend to contract in our shoulders and our neck. So you might want to see, is there any tension there? Tightness? Are you holding? Does it feel stuck? Where does it feel open, softer, relaxed? Coming down through your arms, into your fingertips, and then through your chest. Yeah, where is it soft? Where is it open? Where does it feel available? Down through your gut. Again, contractions, holding, tightness. Maybe it's pinching in some way. Into your buttocks. Down through your thighs. Your shins. And your ankles, and down through your feet and toes. And again, just like, what did you notice? Where couldn't you access that information? Oh, I can't find it perhaps in my back, right? So just no need, there's no right or wrong here, nothing to change. It's like, oh, just, can I feel those areas that are contracted or open or soft? And the last round is about movement. We have really two different kinds. One is a macro movement, and those are things like, I can feel my heart beating, or I can feel my chest rise and fall as I breathe. Those are macro movements. But we also have micro movements. And so this third round is to start to access or look for where you feel micro movements. So if you start at the top of your head, you're looking for, where do I feel tingling? Where do I feel a sense of things like sort of flowing or pulsing? Where do I feel sort of a buzzy feeling? Down again through your face, your head, into your neck, right? So we're looking for, is there throbbing going on? Is there tingling going on? You feel any vibrations? Down through your shoulders, your arms, and into your fingers. And then we're going to go back into our chests. It might feel like there's pounding there, or maybe you're shivering or shaking down through your belly, your buttocks, your thighs. Remember, we're looking for micro movements. Feel fluidity. Does it feel, like it's, I think I feel mostly like a vibration or an electrical feeling down through your legs, your shins, into your feet and toes. Great. And so I'm going to share with you a slide that has a lot more words on it. But this is really important. Our bodies are always sending us messages. As I said before, our brains, we have a distributed brain system. So there's actually more information coming up our body into the brain we identify in our head than there is that's going down. But we often ignore it or don't understand it, right? So what we're doing here, Sharon and I are doing, is encouraging you to start, what's happening in my body? Because there's a statistic that our bodies respond somewhere between like 3 and 7 seconds before it registers in our brain, which is really important to know, because we're on a delay. We're on a delay. And so if you can stay in touch with your body, you're going to be in tune faster to if something has shifted or changed for you. So this is an encouragement, right, to come back into our bodies like that little person on earth, right? Come back into our bodies so that we can start getting the information that is always available to us. We just tend to not notice or ignore. And so I'm going to do a second exercise, if you will, called centering, that I'm going to invite you to do. And this is all by invitation, by the way. Please feel free to just simply sit there if you'd like or observe. You don't have to participate, but this is an invitation. And this is one way of starting to be in touch with your own presence or bringing it forward. And as Sharon said, we all have presence. We just often don't know what it is. One of my teachers, Wendy Palmer, says, one of her quotes is, "We're born on the wrong side of our eyes," which is so true. Often other people are seeing our presence, but we may not recognize it. So this is a centering exercise. It's a way of sort of coming out of that brain picture I did, like am I in the past, or I'm in the future, or am I running a commentary, or am I actually in having the experience of now? So again, you can do this standing or sitting. For the purposes of the webinar, I'm going to stay seated or I won't be on camera. But what I'd like you to do is put your feet on the floor, put your bottom on your chair, just recognize the chair. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just take a nice inhale in, and at that time to expand your spine. You could let exhale too, but it's bringing up the inhale and assuming your full length. It's not about stretching, it's about taking up, allowing your spine actually to be in its natural position, right? So just bring that inhale up. I like to think about it as like putting my head in a crown, or some people think about a string, and that the string is pulling them up a little bit. You can use whatever works for you. So that inhale up, and then a nice slow exhale down and softening your front. Great. One more time. Inhaling up, slow exhale down, and this time add a smile to your face. Call to mind something or someone that makes you smile. Great. And staying in that position, I want you to take a minute and just look around your room or wherever you are at the space to your right, in front of you, to your left, and even behind you. There's a lot of space. Yeah, so just notice that space. And we all have something called peripersonal space. We tend to, I call it a bubble, but it tends to be something that we map to the length of our arm. And actually, they say our energetic field goes about 10 feet, but they can't measure it anymore. They don't have a machine that will measure much more. But we want to at least know that this is our peripersonal space. This is our bubble, right? And maybe you've had this experience, somebody gets too close to you. I'll often say when that happens, like, oh, somebody broke my bubble, right? So what is your peripersonal space? So just imagine that space. And what you can do is just imagine enlarging that space. And you can enlarge it maybe just 5%. And if your eyes are open, you can be thinking about, how do I increase my space in such a way as that the people on this call, right, are included in my space. This is a move for moving from me and you to a we, having us all be in the space together. And then ask yourself, what if my body had a little more ease? And just notice what's happening for you. And I'd like to invite you to ask yourself, what do I care about? Who or what do I care about? And as that caring rises either from your gut or from your heart, allow that caring to spread, to move through your body as much as it can. Just invite it to expand. And then I'd like to just invite you to take another nice inhale up, slow exhale down. And when you're ready, just return to the room. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
You can
Wow.
do that. That was a little bit of a long centering because we're doing this so that you can learn it, but it's very easy. If you find yourself knocked off in some way, you can do a much shorter version of that. But I want to give you the science behind some of this because it will help as we talk more about presence. When we're under pressure or stress, which most of us are on a pretty regular basis, certain hormones are flowing. When we're stressed, the one we're all familiar with is cortisol. It's a stress hormone, right? And what it does is basically hijack us. It takes our the cognitive part of our brain, right, offline. And we lose our connection to creativity, to really good thinking, to risk taking, actually, to I said creativity, but what happens is our brain kind of shuts down after the amygdala, right? Because our body's ready to respond to a threat. So those stress hormone, really, we lose our ability, our peripheral vision, like our ability to take in information, all goes offline. So what we want to do is change that, right? And how we change that is that when we're stressed, we tend to contract, or when we're contracted, we tend to bring on a little bit of that stress hormone. So what the antidote to that is again, our body. When we are stressed and we want to shift that centering exercise, what we're doing is we are using our extender muscles. We're extending our spine. So when we extend our arms, our legs, our spine, we straighten up. What happens to our bodies are we start producing different chemicals, one of which is testosterone, which we don't want a lot of, because we've seen what too much testosterone might produce. We want enough. It's a feeling of confidence that comes. So we want to increase our testosterone. When I asked you to put a smile on your face in the centering, that's about connection, actually. That starts to produce something called oxytocin, which is often called the bonding and it's a stress hormone, actually, but it's a bonding hormone. So what it does, when you hear stories about a mother pulling a car up off their child, and you wonder, how did she get that superhuman strength? It is coming from that oxytocin, right? So what you're doing, where we're pointing here is that our bodies, right, can shift our presence, right? If we're mindful, what is my body doing? Am I contracted? Am I under stress? And if I am, how do I come back, right, to a place where I'm more available, more centered, calmer? And it's about how we shift our bodies. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of those things where you cannot think your way to calm.
Right.
You need to do some physical shifting to change those hormones, to create access in your distributed brain to have the impact that you would prefer in a room. And we also know you can't fake your way to calm. You can try through some of the physical exercises, but you really do need to do a few other moves through your body. And so we wanted to bring forward Amy Cuddy. You can Google Amy. Amy has great definitions about presence. We thought we'd bring forward one of her quotes: "We convince by our presence, and to convince others, we need to convince ourselves." So in one of her definitions, presence is something to which we all have access. As I was saying earlier, think of it as a tap rather than an ever-flowing fountain. So I like to tell my clients, think of it as like a beer tap at the bar, right? Because we need qualities, and we might mix a few qualities. I know mixing beer is maybe not delicious, but you hear the illustration, right? Is that we need a little of this and a little bit of that. And from time to time, we might only need this or only need that. And if we can think about that as something that we can turn off and on, so to speak, in order to meet the moment, it creates, as we move to number 2 here, our ability to be attuned to and comfortably able to express the best parts of ourselves. So it's about being authentic in those moments, but again, not in the unfiltered way, in the very deliberate way where we can be with what is. And then when we take up space with our bodies, our minds are positively impacted. We create a feeling of power in a positive sense from within. And then without that power, we can't be as present. And frankly, what we would say from also a somatic perspective is, without being with ourselves in all of those ways and starting to attune to the mindfulness of our presence, we actually have the capacity to therefore take in others. And so it is the moving from the me and the you to the we that starts with how you show up in your presence.
And I just wanted to add, because I think it's really, really important what you said, Sharon, about Amy Cuddy's theory is really that when we shift our bodies, right, we are shifting how we feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Other people, just like we showed with the pictures, people feel it too. We're all just energy, right? And we're always transmitting and shifting and sharing that energy. So that the idea is really when we shift ourselves, right, that body movement, we're changing how we feel. And as a consequence, how other people feel around us.
Right. Right. And it's a form of service as a change leader that I would say we owe to those that we lead and serve, to be as mindful as we can be in our presence so that we are creating the impact, because we all have good intent, but we are creating the impact that we would prefer for others as well as for ourselves. But we've got to start with ourselves first. And so we wanted to just name very concretely some of the elements of presence. And of course, as we've been talking here, it's about the fact that it is embodied. It is about being in the here and the now and having an open mind, which you can get to through being mindful and open in your body, being very clear on where you are in the space, whatever it is that centers you, being curious about yourself and about others, being open-hearted and having real clarity. And therefore, we can get to a place where we can experience what is, because what is not always easy. It is not always easy. And it can be full of mistakes that you want to clean up as quickly as possible in front of folks. And that's part of the authenticity, is that it can be wonderful and powerful, but it can also get some kind of way sometimes. And the more we can be with what is and stay in our calm, stay focused in the quality we want to bring forward, stay very clear on the impact we are seeking to create, that authenticity and that embodiment can change a room, as you all said from the beginning. And that the other component to presence, and I would say an effective, powerful presence, is the clear sense of commitment. So as we said at the top of this, Marcia and I have a commitment about the importance of presence. And you can probably see, hopefully can see in the way we embody this topic, with the way we embody this content, is that the commitment changes what's possible to experience in the room. And if you can see our commitment, for example, or you can experience your own commitment in a setting, it does change the way the commitment can land for others as part of change leadership. So having that commitment very clear and very embodied inside of you so that it scaffolds and supports what it is you want to land, that also is part of what can change a room. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple things happen in chat I wanted to bring forward about the profoundness of feeling the impact. And then certainly people around us read our body language long before we open our mouths. Yeah. Did you want to talk about the body language part?
No, actually, I did. I wanted to own a mistake. I forgot to say something that I think is important. So I just want to, sorry, everybody, I'm going to kind of go back a bit, but then we'll come back to the comments. And that is that this is not, I don't think, well known, that her name is Lisa Barrett Feldman. She's an expert. Her thing is emotions. And what she says is that the humans, we have sensations, right? And then we're in a context. And we then name the sensations as an emotion. And we can have a sensation in one situation where we think, oh, I'm feeling something in my stomach and it's 12 o'clock, I'm probably hungry. So we name it as hunger. In a different context with the very same sensations, we can say, oh, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. So I'm bringing that forward because we often focus on our emotions, right? But they're a label we've put on something based on our experiences in the world. And that's another reason we're encouraging you to get back in touch with your body and to learn the language of the sensations and what the sensations are trying to tell you, right? Because they're happening before you label them. So I just wanted to put that out there because it was revolutionary to me when I learned that. I wanted to share it.
Yeah. And it's specific to you and your shaping and your identities and your lived experiences. And so again, the more you can get to know yourself, the more you can understand this flutter is my nervousness, or this flutter is how much I'm maybe nervous, but I'm really excited.
Yeah.
And so let me lean into that as a way to support my presence. Yeah, that was a good one, Marcia. Mm-hmm.
And give yourself a chance to be with the emotion. Sharon was just talking about this. We tend to like to get away from things that we don't like or feel uncomfortable, but actually look what's going on in the world. We can't run away from what's going on. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's sad. It might make you angry, right? But we really need to stay connected to our experience if we're going to take thoughtful action at some point. We don't have the answers, but it's important not to step away, but to start to get comfortable with some of the things that we find uncomfortable, to
Indeed.
be in the true experience.
Yeah, and that our commitment, frankly, needs to be more important than any of those things that feel like it's interrupting us, and that it brings us through because of the care of the commitment that we have. And so a commitment is the opportunity to step into more confidence and more personal empowerment, help us clarify our values and what's important to us. Wendy Palmer, a teacher for both of us, we have a quote here from Wendy: energy organizes around what is most articulate in your system. And the more careful, the more mindful we can be about what is most articulate in us and in our commitments, the more that will translate for others and be supportive to the larger, the collective community, the larger goal, the change at hand. And it also, this becomes a mechanism for attunement in the room and feedback from the room, moment by moment. Finding out if you're meeting the moment, if you need to shift the quality or the beer tap to meet the moment differently, something happens, you need to step back, reattune with what is and who is in the room and what's happening in the space. That feedback and attunement cycle, as like a feedback loop, is part of the presence that makes it so powerful in process, not just in a moment. So we wanted to name that as well. And I recognize that we're close to time here, so we want to just kind of move through this really quickly and give you a little bit of homework to think about and incite some inspiration for you as you step forward.
Well, this is just really, it's an invitation to take the next step, which is, do you know what you evoke in other people, right? That creates or doesn't create the impact you want to be having. So you can take some guesses at, like, yeah, what is it that I bring? Someone said in the chat really well about people, they read us before we open our mouths, like just our mere showing up, our presence, they read it fast. So check, like what impact do I have, right? And I would suggest, if you feel comfortable, is ask people. A long time ago, we had one of the directors of what used to be called the Organization Development Program used to ask people and to pair up and ask, in your presence, I feel, to figure, and they would fill it out. So you can be asking people what you evoke just to get a better sense of what your natural energetic presence is. And then you're able to shift from that if you want, right? But you might want to get that basic understanding. And then the question is, how do you present yourself so that your actions, right, and words align with your presence? Because we all know people who say one thing, but their bodies are saying another, right? And that's not particularly impactful. It's confusing. So those are some challenges if you want to go a little further with this topic.
Indeed. And we recognize there might be a question or two that might have come forward while we were talking. So Jonathan, we'll give a moment in case you received any Q&A. But hopefully, as some of the frameworks, I'll chat as we're waiting to hear more from Jonathan or in the chat itself. Any of these frameworks are Googleable and you'll be able to get the recording and the slides. So you can look up more about Amy. You can look up more about Wendy Palmer. You can look up more about some of these embodiment practices. Prentice Hemphill is an amazing embodiment leader and practitioner who has institutes of their own. So we just want to inform other ways in which you can continue to get inspiration for this work.
So again, I want to invite everybody to, as Sharon said, if you have questions, please put them in the chat now. We can be happy to answer them. I mean, we can go probably till 1 o'clock here, and please, let's hear what you got.
While those questions might come in, Marcia, do you want to do some of the additional techniques to give people some space?
I can.
Yeah, we can just start with breath, maybe. I think we've done some of that.
So, we're really pointing to, for me, the bottom line here is to be in touch with your body and notice what's happening for you and be able to change it, right? If it's not working, like if I'm angry, right, and it's coming through, I need to know that, right, fast. So this is an encouragement to notice your body and then to be able to shift. So these are other techniques for shifting. One is breathing. We often forget to breathe. I'm looking for my
Can I jump in on that one while
Yes.
you're doing that? We forget to breathe, but then when we do breathe, we might breathe like right here. And it's really it's shallow. And so the more we can just allow it to, we can breathe in our back, folks. We can breathe in our belly. If you breathe deep enough into your body, it actually shifts your voice. The way your voice lands in a room is affected by the depth of the breath that you allow. And we certainly know the powerful impact of our voice. And that's a key component. It's also a physical cue to remind you, oh, am I here? And how much am I showing up in my commitment, or what's got me nervous, or what do I need to step back and re-embody and come back about? Your voice is also one of those physical cues.
And you may know some of your own ways, like when you find yourself off center or in a state you don't like. It might be that you listen to music, put on some music. I have a client who put in his office one of those waterfalls. Makes some people want to go to the bathroom, but for other people, he found it very calming to have that water running. Going outside is really going back into nature. There's a lot of science and studies about what water does to us, being near water or being out in the woods, right? You can think of something you care about, or as Sharon has talked about, your commitment. Oh yeah, bring me back to like, what am I here for? What do I care about? I can't show it to you right now, but I have a wall of inspiration. I have pictures of people up. Wendy Palmer is one of them, who, when I need that quality they have, I say, ooh, I need Wendy Palmer right now, right? Or I need Muhammad Ali because I'm going to the gym, right? Like, what is it, right? There are people who can inspire us to shift as well.
It looks
So we have our first question here.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to take it, that's great. So for everybody, can you say more about how you can make sure that your actions are in line with what you evoke in others?
Yeah, so checking on impact is, I think, how I'm hearing that. Yeah. So yeah, if I can just underpin. Yeah, I was just going to underpin Marcia's component is ask for the feedback. Check. I think that is the only way, is to check the feedback from others and being willing to have that conversation. And then also, the power of, if they say something that you didn't intend and you want to change your impact, it actually can build the relationship to have them realize how much their feedback mattered. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say, before people check out, though, in the chat, there are a number of programs here at Georgetown for those of you who want to go a little deeper into some of this work. Sharon and I offer a body intelligence class. We also offer a principles of transformation, where people are looking at their own transformation. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's human resources. I think someone just put up on our screen here we've talked a lot about our organization development program. We have an incredible coaching program. So there are a lot of programs here at Georgetown, all of which have a thread of use of self, or how it is you're showing up. Yeah, there's a whole selection. I'm not going to read them all. But feel free to avail yourselves of these offers, because if you're interested in the topic of presence or change leadership, these are the programs will all, you may have a wealth here of choices.
I just want to say, I love folks talking about their shift to their next meeting.
Yeah.
Shifting. Yeah. So indeed, really appreciate the listening and the shifting and the transitioning, and being willing to experiment with us and being in the conversation with us today. It's certainly been powerful to be with you.
Thank you. Feel free to contact us if you need anything or want anything. I think our bio,
I'll put it on the screen for us. Yeah, our bio might have it. Here's our contact information, our emails, our names. You can also find us on LinkedIn through our name, so feel free to find us there as well. Thank you so much, folks. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Yes.
Enjoy.
And I want to say, from the program side, thank you everybody so much for attending today. And thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Marcia, for doing this wonderful program, part of our Lunch and Learn series. This is the first specifically for the Institute for Transformational leadership, and we are so happy that you did such a wonderful presentation, and we had 70 something people consistently throughout, so I loved it. So again, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Bye,
good one.
everybody.